Yesterday, I had one of the nicest compliments that I've had in my entire 14-year career in real estate, and I want to share with you what it looks like. What's up, my friend? It's Courtney here with the Atkinson team, serving beautiful Southern Alberta, Calgary, Lethbridge, Medicine Hat, all parts in between. I've been doing this a long time, sold over 3,000 properties for over $1 billion, 14 years in this career. But in order to understand why this compliment was so substantial to me, I need to give you a bit of a backstory about me and my career trajectory. And the truth is, I'm just a small town maritime kid from a little place called Chipman, New Brunswick. Nobody's ever heard of that. There's only about 1,500 people there, and there's not a lot to do in Chipman, as you can imagine. Now, I stayed there until about grade 6 and moved to Fredericton with my mom. My dad still lives in Chipman, so I still get a chance to go back and see him once every year or two. And as I moved to Fredericton, I was kind of faced with this dichotomous challenge of, now moving to a big city, but being a small town kid and learning what living in a city was like and making new friends, and really didn't feel like I belonged. Okay, so I spent a lot of time in my youth kind of bouncing back and forth between these two cities, not really feeling like I belonged anywhere. And then over the course of my education and career, I went to university at Mount Allison, then eventually the University of Saskatchewan, and finally landed here in Lethbridge, Alberta, where I've had a couple of successful careers, one at the University of Lethbridge and now real estate. But when I was at the University of Lethbridge, I was married to a faculty member there, and we've been together for many, many years leading up to that point. And most of our friends were academics. Most of our friends were PhDs, folks that had great career paths, and in some cases administration there, and had done this kind of work for many, many years, and myself included. I'd come from the University of Saskatchewan, where I'd been the VP Finance for the Graduate Student Association, managing a multi-million-dollar budget there, by age 25, and had gotten a really good job at the University of Lethbridge when we moved here in about 2001. So as I came to this new city, I had the sense that I had to prove myself. I was just a young guy, 27 years old, really had no business taking the job that I got at the University of Lethbridge. I was pretty lucky in the way that all sorted out. But I'd kind of always had this sense of not belonging and had this sense of like needing to prove myself and this constant sense of not enoughness, no matter what I was doing from a very young age, and still experiencing this in my career at the University of Lethbridge. Okay. Now, there came a time after about 6 years there that I decided that I was going to leave that career behind, and I settled on real estate as being the right path for me for a variety of reasons, not the least of which was that I loved homes, I loved people, and I've been doing kind of similar work with the Office of Faculty Recruitment, which I started, and ran for my last 3 years at the university. And I realized this: if I was going to move into real estate as a career, I knew that a lot of my clients would be my friends and colleagues at the University of Lethbridge. There were over 2,500 people there, very professional work environment, people with very high expectations, and I had an inside track by virtue of my marriage and by virtue of a lot of the friends that I had built over the 6 years that I had worked there. And so I knew that if I was going to be representing professors and vice presidents and presidents and faculty and staff and all these folks that had come to respect me as an HR professional, that I ought to have some really good systems and a very good business model that was equally professional to the kind of work environment that had been established there and at other universities. And the challenge was, I was coming into real estate from a professional work environment, and there were very high expectations and a standard of communication and professionalism that would be higher than most work environments, as you can well imagine. And when I get into real estate, I was the only guy with an MBA, one of the very few with a degree, and one of the very few with a past work experience in that sort of professional environment. And one of the challenges that I was faced with was that when I would be dealing with lawyers and closing transactions, I really wasn't being treated very professionally at all. In fact, I had the distinct impression that realtors were not was not a career path that particularly impressed most lawyers. In fact, I got the impression that most lawyers had disdain for realtors for one reason or another. And no matter what I was doing, no matter how hard I tried, no matter how professional or eloquent, no matter how good my contracts were, no matter how good my representation was, it just didn't ever seem that I could impress upon a lawyer that I should be an equal, okay? Listen, I could have been a lawyer. I could have gone to law school instead of doing an MBA, but I opted not to because I'd make a terrible lawyer. I don't want to do that kind of work, never did. But the point is that, I was really struggling with this identity because I'm like, listen, I'm a professional. I've got a system. I've got a business. I've got a team. We have protocols. We have accountability, like all the stuff that much bigger businesses have. And we were doing all these things on the Atkinson team, selling hundreds of properties a year, things that had never been done in the real estate business here in Southern Alberta in the history of real estate, and still to this day. And I didn't feel like I was being treated like an equal until yesterday. I want to share this story with you. So, kind of a low odds circumstance, truth-wise, is that somebody reached out to the office. I reached back. Seemed like they needed an evaluation. There was a divorce on the go. And it wasn't that they had any intent on hiring us. They just wanted a third opinion. The kind of decision had already been made. And I thought, well, I can either go do this work myself or pass it off to a team member, recognizing that there's not going to be any opportunity for a paycheck at the end. So I thought, well, listen, I'll take one for the team. I'll burn a little bit of my Easter weekend and, kind of absolve somebody else of this responsibility of doing 3 or 4 hours work for free. No big deal. So I go over to the property, meet with these people, and build pretty good rapport. And as it turns out, they've already met a couple of realtors, but they're very impressed with the way that I conducted myself and the fact that I wanted them both to be present, even though there was a divorce on the go, the questions that I asked, the level of preparation that I brought to the meeting, the clear fact that there was a system and process that they were feeling a part of and that I was clearly using to their benefit. And so by virtue of that, what previously had turned out to be an opportunity that was already buttoned up and was a family that had kind of already made a decision as to which realtor they would work with, one of these two that they had interviewed before, invited me to come back and make the second part of my presentation around the marketing plan, the evaluation, and maybe even get some paperwork signed. And so I agreed to do that by surprise. Sat down with them yesterday, in fact, and went through the marketing plan, the process, all the things that we do to represent properties, how our marketing is integrated, how it is that we can target custom audiences and retarget people that have been on our website looking at properties and maximize every single opportunity that we've got so that we're leaving no stone unturned in the marketing plan. And then I also proceeded to explain to them how it's not good enough just to have a good marketing plan, but you also have to have a great system in the background that allows you to maximize each one of those opportunities, each one of those leads, we call them in our business. That would be somebody inquiring on a listing that we have marketed. And I talked to them about speed to lead and how we have this standard of getting to each new lead in 2 minutes and following up with folks that we don't get on the phone 10 times in 14 days and then once a week for the next 6 weeks, and how we alternate with a voice call and then a voice message or a text after that. Explain to them the accountability standard that we have across our team, which is that if our agents are taking leads and not following that protocol, then they're obviously too busy. So we give them a break and take them out of leads for the week. So naturally, our agents are very much on top of their databases, all the opportunities that they're seeing in front of them. They're great at staying on top of folks, following up with folks, and making sure that all the buyers that are inquiring on our listings are well cared for, and enabling us to communicate this message of value to sellers like I was yesterday. And so we walked through all of that, and I asked the question at the end, how does that sound? And this is where this tremendous compliment came in, and I want to share this with you. And this person, who's a lawyer, by the way, said to me, Courtney, I want you to know something. I've dealt with hundreds of realtors over my career, and this is by far the most professional, most involved, most data-driven experience that I've ever been part of, and I want to thank you. This completely changes my perception of realtors. Like, what music to my ears after all of these years trying to do something like this, trying to show that we do have this business model that isn't meant to sound or feel corporate. It's just meant to do a great job for me and you. You need to know that you're hiring someone to represent you, but you also want to recognize the fact that I have a limited skill set. I'm not a great receptionist and I don't have a photographic memory, so we need systems and tools and people to do these things for us, installing signs and doing paperwork. And there's literally hundreds of tasks in the background that are happening for our clients, but naturally I'm not going to be the person that's going to be best at doing all those. And having a system in place and a structure where everybody knows what to do, everybody knows when to do it, and most importantly, there's accountability around that so that we all know what happens if something is not done, built with redundancy in place to ensure that the balls don't get dropped for too long if they do get dropped, because, hey, we're human too, all right, was really encouraging for this person and something that they had not experienced before. And it just made me so proud because this is really realistically what I've been working for my entire career. This little kid from New Brunswick who never really felt like he belonged and kind of constantly trying to prove that, he deserved to be wherever he was, in whatever group and whatever city with whatever people. This was one of those things from a very early stage in my real estate career, at least, where I felt like I just never could get to that place where I had the respect of lawyers until yesterday. And the beautiful part about it was that, for the first time, a lawyer was able to see behind the scenes the entire process, the entire practice with examples, and I was really pleased with what they saw and thought that it was really, really professional. And it just made my heart sing because I'd literally been waiting for that comment for a very long time. And I wanted to share that with you. Not the least of which just to, share a cool story with you about a cool client that I had the chance to engage with over the weekend, make it real estate related naturally, and share with you some of the things that we do in the background. But also to give you some insight that, hey, listen, the truth is you just never know what people are thinking. And the best thing that you can do is just kind of carry on doing your thing and remembering that, the joy is in the work and being present in each of those beautiful moments like this one that I have with you right now. So thanks for being around for my story today. Appreciate the opportunity to share it with you. Let me know. I'd be curious to hear about a real estate story that you have from your consumer perspective. It'd be really cool to hear of a great example of some service that you've received from an amazing realtor in your journey. Maybe there's some learning there for us as well. So go ahead, comment below if you wouldn't mind. It'd be so cool to hear from you. And otherwise, I wish you well. Take good care.